M. Night Shyamalan. Last time I saw one of his movies was, what was it, 2 years ago? Or it was last year? I kind of don't remember, but it was the time when I saw, yeah, I think it was 2 years ago since I saw Glass. And if people remember or seen my video about Glass, I think I already told you that I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with M. Night Shyamalan because he gets interesting ideas, but sometimes his way of making movies, they come out as either ridiculous or drag out, or sometimes his twist doesn't make sense. You can tell that whether you call him a good director or a bad director, a good filmmaker or a bad filmmaker, whatever your position on this guy is, one thing for sure is that he is probably kind of like the most fascinating of movie directors. You can tell that the guy loves to make movies. They're not perfect. Sometimes he comes out with good ones, like in my book, there's Split, there's The Visit, or of course the one that brought him on the map, The Sixth Sense. Or sometimes you're gonna bring out like movies that you hate, like The Happening, The Last Airbender, or even in my case, Unbreakable. Yeah, I hate it. I'm still in a position to say that I hate Unbreakable. So much that I really disliked his last film, Glass. But now since we are in this kind of like this ups and downs on the pandemic, and now we're back on going to movie theaters. There was this movie that came out, and it's called Old. And once I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, what is this about? Oh, M. Night Shyamalan? I'm in. This guy fascinates me, and the trailer, it really showed a lot of promise on what it's gonna be. Although in my mind it's like, maybe it's gonna have all these you know what? Night Shyamalan. Oh my god, we're back to with this guy. If you saw my video about his last movie, Glass, I think I told you that I have a certain love-hate relationship with this guy. He has kind of like this, he has this fascinating aura in his movies in which you watch it, you get interested. His direction is pretty good, but not his writing is really cheesy or really bad, but sometimes you can't put your eyes off on keep you thrilled what this guy is gonna do. So he's not my favorite director, but still I will say that he's one of the most fascinating there is in the industry. And now we got this one named Old, which is based on a graphic novel named Sandcastle, which is one that I didn't read. I didn't even know that it existed. I just went for it because, well, it has M. Night Shyamalan in it, so it was pretty obvious that I had to see it because, my god, this guy is so fascinating. And considering that I do have kind of like a half record of movies that I like from him, ranging from The Sixth Sense, a little bit Devil, but in a certain extent. I like The Visit, I like Split, but there are other movies from him that I absolutely hated, like The Happening, The Last Airbender, Unbreakable. Yeah, I hate Unbreakable. And last year's movie I really didn't like. I didn't like Glass. Yeah, I know there's Lady in the Water, but I never saw Lady in the Water. But right now we're concentrating on this one named Old. A movie that it has a simple premise that I don't need to stretch it all out, just like I did do usually in my other videos, kind of like to build tension about it, because old premise the premise is like this: a family and other tourists they go to this secluded beach in order to have fun. But unfortunately, apparently this beach has this curse in which the longer you stay on that beach, you get older and older in minutes. And unfortunately, no matter how they try to get out, is difficult, because if they go to the passageway where they go to, they black out and they get stranded, kind of like back to the beach, let's say, and you can't go out of the beach because, well, it's dangerous. People get drowned, and of course there are cliffs that leave these people trapped on this island, and so basically it's kind of like a race against time before they get older and older, and then they die of, well, from getting old. That's basically the whole synopsis that normally I will tell you later, but it was simple enough for me to talk about it right now. But at least I will tell you this: despite my love-hate relationship on M. Night Shyamalan, I will say that compared to Glass, this is actually one of his better ones. Whether you like Shyamalan or not, you're gonna have a lot of mixed reactions to this one. You're gonna either love it, you're gonna either hate it, or you're gonna be kind of in the middle ground. If you ask me, I will say that this is probably one of M. Night Shyamalan's better movies. I will say that it's not perfect. It has a lot of the common elements that you're gonna find on an M. Night Shyamalan film. Whether it is the sometimes over the top but still dry acting, really awkward and cheesy dialogue scenes in which people just spat out exposition about what is happening without kind of like a basic logic. Let's say that there are people trying to make kind of like giving out a reason of why things are happening. It has the thrilling element. It has of course the typical M. Night Shyamalan twist, and of course let's not forget that the all-time lovable trope of M. Night Shyamalan appearing in this movie. Yep. So I'll tell you right now that M. Night Shyamalan in his cameo is of him being a chauffeur of a hotel tour chauffeur, or a driver, whatever you want to call it. That's the only thing I will tell you about this guy at this moment. But basically, you know that M. Night Shyamalan, he tries to become the kind of like the next Stan Lee without being Stan Lee. So, well, I just came out. Let's say that this movie has I'll tell you right now that it's an interesting premise. I like the premise because in itself, it's a scary concept. It's a thrilling concept. The execution, I found it a little bit of a mixed bag. There are some things that work, sometimes it doesn't. In my case, I will say that I was so hooked into the movie and the things that are happening that there are times that I kind of forget that I'm watching kind of like just a silly film with silly actors, or doing silly stuff from a quasi-silly director, to put it a little bit in kind of like you know what I mean. but still, I had fun with this movie. It kept me kind of like on the edge of my seat, probably on the right or the wrong reasons. To give you a little bit more detail about the story, I did tell you that it's about kind of like a family and a group of tourists going to this resort secluded beach. But well, to put it a little bit more specific on the plot, it centers on this family. There's the mother, the father, played by, what was the name of the actor? Rufus Sewell. And they have their 2 children. One of them, what was it? I think she was one of the children is 8 years old, and the young son is also 6 years old. Or it was one was 10, the other one was 6. I don't remember exactly the date. They go to this resort beach hotel. And let me tell you, that hotel it's really beautiful. It's almost like they found it's almost like they found the real pleasure island. So basically, they go there, they meet the people, they meet the manager of the hotel, who is this sleazy, kind of like this guy who, right in the instant you see him, you say, hey, this guy looks sleazy. He kind of looks like he kind of has this vibe like the architect from the Matrix. I don't know why. And there's this, and then the boy meets the child, who is basically the manager's nephew. They have kind of like this acting, which I'll get to it, by the way. Then the guy is. Then apparently there's kind of like an internal family conflict in which there's kind of like on the verge of divorce, but technically it's kind of, they're going to that resort. It's like, hey children, have fun. When we are finished, we're gonna tell you the news. We're gonna have a divorce. I don't know if that's cruel or anything. But anyway, the manager is like, hey, I recommend you to go to this beach. Not many people go there, so I'll tell you to go there. So they go there with other tourists. They're led by M. Night Shyamalan driver. They go to this beach, and then how can I say this? Everything is good and dandy until things get a little bit chaotic. Starting up when the boy finds a corpse floating in the water, and then kind of like the eldest person in the eldest person that dies in this it's very soon. And of course, like the movie entails, they realize that they're getting older, they can't escape because I already told you they're suffering blackouts and no one can get out. And basically then the whole movie is just them trying to find out kind of like reasons why they have to do things or how they can get out, trying to, there's this chaotic panic between all parties, trying to figure out how to get out of there. Although sometimes the movie gets distracted because it has them dealing with technically different problems that it has to do with what is happening, or sometimes at the same time these people are technically dealing with their own personal issues. They kind of begin to shout at each other. Sometimes the children kind of begin to act. I'll get to that, by the way. This one I need a kind of like a further explanation. And of course we got our main protagonists from the mother and the father. They're trying to they're reveal kind of like what that they were planning a divorce, but at the same time realizing that they did miss what they were missing what they got, or something like that. Something that Shyamalan tried to put out, a theme that life is short and you have to appreciate it as fast because time flies fast. Kind of like I think that's the kind of metaphor that he was going through. Even though, again, I don't know if that theme is on the graphic novel, but I'm just going for the movie's logic at this point. I will say that the acting, I will say that it is really decent. For a Shyamalan film, I would say that the acting is decent. No one was kind of like a horrible actor. Sometimes they overact a little bit, or sometimes they just ramble with kind of like that. But mostly I would think that is about the direction of the acting more than the actors themselves. I heard that, even though I don't know much of the actors, I know that people say that these actors are pretty decent. But I will say that, well, in my case, they were decent enough. They acted how they were supposed to be. Because, well, last week I saw LeBron James acting, so I think that there's kind of like an improvement compared to that. So nothing special about the acting. We have, of course, the characters. We talk about the family, in which, not gonna lie, that they're actually, if you kind of put a little bit your heart into the movie, you might come off as being pitied on this movie. But maybe it's just kind of like my personal experience. Considering that I've seen people getting older during my life, and then even seeing the passing of my grandmothers and my grandfather, I kind of have kind of like this internal I mean, for lack of better words, kind of like empathy. Kind of like this internal empathy of having these people going into this tremendous shock that their life is just just sweeping away in a matter of minutes, and to make things worse, one thing that the trailer doesn't tell you much is that almost all of the adults, all of them had some kind of illness or disease that are infecting them. For example, we got, not all of them. For example, the children, they just kind of became victims of the circumstances since they're hanging out with the mother. Because at the start of the movie, the mother is suffering. A benign tumor. There is other characters also included, psychologist who she has this convulsive seizure. There's also I don't remember what one guy had. Another woman who brought her daughter, a 6-year-old, no, I think it was a 4-year-old daughter, in which I think she has kind of like calcium problems. There's another guy who even brought a pocket knife. This guy he has more mental problems than anything. There's also this other guy, I think they call him Jerry or something like that, kind of like the nerd. I don't remember what he had. There's the elderly woman who she doesn't stay much for the movie. There's the dog. Oh, and there's also this guy who he was actually the one that was accompanying the first victim for the movie, the corpse woman that they find in the trailer. But this guy has kind of like this, I don't know what's the name of this illness, but it makes him bleed from his nose constantly. But you won't believe the name that this guy has. And I got my IMDb here because I found the name of the guy, and I was like, can you believe this guy's name? The guy plays the role of a rapper, and his name is Mid-Size Sedan. Mid-Size Sedan. You know what? Give him credit, because at least Last week I forgot to mention that I saw that when I saw Space Jam: The New Legacy, many people are technically talking about this cringe moment of Porky Pig rapping, in which his name is the notorious P.I.G. At least a name like Midsize Sedan is creative. I'll give it that. So I will leave it. I'll leave it at that, like that at the moment. Oh yeah, and but no, nothing. I just still thinking about mid-size sedan. A little bit of technical moments. The camera work is fine. I might say that during the first half of the movie, there are moments in which M. Night Shyamalan really proves that he is competent with the camera work. Like, for example, there are kind of like in moments in which it kind of gives a panoramic of looking like this, and then turns something like that to show some other scenes, and so on, so on. Although sometimes sometimes there's a little bit of kind of like a clumsy work, because you can tell that there are moments in which like for example, almost in the beginning, it wanted to reveal that, it wanted to kind of hide the fact that the kid technically grow up, and it wanted to keep them off camera in order to say, oh, when's gonna come that moment that it's gonna reveal that these kids can technically grow up fast. But this moment, I'll say that it kind of drags that welcome a little bit longer than it should. And it was a moment during the climax in which it wanted to play out a POV shot, which I'm not gonna exactly reveal that for the sake of not spoiling any much. Special effects. Special effects, I'll say that I'm glad that a little bit of the CGI is kind of minimal, except for one part that you can tell that they use kind of like a CGI. But thanks to the environment and the camera work, it's not totally nuts. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but the only clue that I'll give you is that you know the Futurama episode where they have about that Wall Street guy and how that guy died of bonitis. Let's say that there is something similar happening in this movie. Also, what else I can tell you about it? I will say that for a movie about people aging rapidly, you can tell that you're not gonna see kind of like makeup or special effects of people aging almost or people looking really old. For example, in which it's kind of like a hit or miss. You're not gonna see something like an old effect like Mrs. Doubtfire or Benjamin Burton, which honestly I never saw Benjamin Burton. This is one of those movies that I don't feel very comfortable to watch, and I don't know why. I just can't. And for the children, who are the ones who you're gonna see a more noticeable change, you're gonna see that they're gonna begin to swap actors for that matter. That's the least you could get from when it's about special effects for this film. And now I think I'm gonna talk to you about some story elements that are kind of like highlights that I just want to talk about, in which and also some things that kind of doesn't kind of like say that it kind of weakens the believability of this film. For one, as much as it's a compelling story, I will say that it kind of becomes a little bit weird that the children, despite that they age rapidly, when they reach kind of like their 12-year-old and then 15-year-old, 17-year-old, and so on, for some reason, no one gave gave these actors the direction saying that well, you might be grown, but you're still a child. You're still a child, a 6-year-old child that apparently just grew up into the size of a 70-year-old of a 70-year-old, let's say. And then kind of like these children, when they grow up, they begin to act like their age, and I was like, so apparently it not only aged their bodies, but it also gives them kind of like it's some kind of adult intelligence. So what is happening? So what is going on? And honestly, I think that there are anime that they do this concept a little bit better, but man, this is kind of like a big oversight when you kind of make this kind of story. Especially since, warning by the way, warning, I'm gonna tell you something that it might spoil, but it is seen on the trailer. But it's something that I had to laugh. It's something that I kind of laugh, and I was like, at the same time it kind of makes you uncomfortable. Here's the thing, what happened. So basically, it's almost halfway. Oh, before I do that, here's the thing what happened. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the beach not only makes people older, but apparently apparently because of some exposition about that there's some kind of magnetism, that is some sci-fi bull WhatsApp for apparently it makes also kind of like their skin heal fast, almost like Wolverine X Factor, in which one gets cut and then it scars itself really fast. But of course, it doesn't heal vital damage on your body. But so we even got kind of like a big scene in which the mother's tumor gets worse to the point that the tumor begins to grow as big as in exaggeration, a cantaloupe, as big as a cantaloupe. So they needed to make kind of like this surgery. And when the first problem is that whenever they cut it, the body healed itself. So they needed kind of like 2 more people to try to not let the kind of like the injury close. They had to do it with hand, and they take out this tumor. Really, it's almost like having this. It's almost like they were kind of like this big watermelon. But during the whole scene, I was like, man, this woman has balls, because first of all, there's no extreme blood, no infections, and the woman took it like a champion. Sorry, it's technically the fans, by the way. But anyway, she took the whole pain like a champ, because she didn't even scream one bit. So with that out of the way, I'm gonna tell you that uncomfortable moment I was about to talk to you about. Here's what happened. The boy and the 6-year-old boy and the 4-year-old little girl, they now grew up. They now grew up to the point that they were kind of like 17 or 18, something like in the age where your hormones begins to work. So apparently we got this scene of them just laying down, just contemplating what is happening, and something about the dialogue, I was like, okay. And then the next time we see them, the supposed girl, she just up and she's pregnant. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I wish I wasn't kidding. I can see the look on your face. I can see the look on your face. In ways, I want to see people react to that moment. I know that they grew up into the bodies of kind of like an 18 or 17 years old. Again, age is when your hormones begin to act up and you're technically in heat. It's kind of like a natural chord when growing up. But either way, it's still the mind of a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. How the hell did they come with that knowledge? How's that possible? Explain that to me, movie. So either way, they end up with the pregnant, not a pregnant kid. Oh, sorry I'm gonna say that. Pregnant woman. At this point, she's a woman. She basically gives birth in minutes because of the beach stuff, and she gives birth to the baby, and this baby doesn't even last a minute because he can't resist that. There are many factors why a newborn can't resist that, but during this whole time, there was kind of like I see in the background the kind of like the supposed 6-year-old crying about the whole thing, and but still I was like shocked, and I was like, well, how the hell did that happen? Okay, after this awkward moment, okay, how can I continue on with this one? What else I can talk about this movie? Well, let's say that that despite everything that is happening in this movie, I do admit that there are some moments that it actually makes me feel thrilled. For one, is that the family and most of the characters are not unlikable, except for one. And there is a moment on the film that it actually really touched my heartstrings. Mostly because I know that what the movie was trying to do. It was trying to it has this theme that sometimes life goes by and that sometimes we don't appreciate, sometimes we take our life for granted, but we don't know that sometimes our best moments of our life, they just go by and everything like that. And I get that scene. I get that moment, a theme, sorry. And there was kind of like the moment, almost during the final 15 minutes of the movie, that part actually kind of got me. Especially because, coincidentally, I saw this movie right when it was my father's birthday. And coming from me, that I admire my father a lot, is maybe this one kind of spoke to me a little bit, I'll say. And sometimes whenever a movie, whether it's good or bad, you find something that kind of that puts you in the correct mood of a downer or a moment of sincerity that you find while others doesn't. It's something personal. It is technically something personal. But either way, I think that there are some things about this movie that I do want to talk about. But for that, I have to go with this. Yep, it's a good old spoiler section. No pun intended. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the upcoming Shyamalan twist, because every Shyamalan twist, they kind of deserves to be talked about, because it's either what the frick or oh, what the hell. So we got the climax of the movie that during the whole thing, everybody is dying one by one, either by their respective illnesses or sometimes for a certain circumstance. Like for example, Mr. Mid-Sized Sedan, he gets killed by the unlikable guy. Then we got the little girl who turned into a woman. She desperately tries to climb up the rocks, but she slips and falls. And another guy who was the nurse, he just tries to swim it out, only to appear drowned. So then we got, of course, the big one of the big climaxes at night when the character of Rufus Sewell, he begins to lose his sight. His sight becomes blurry and shown by POV shots. The character of the mother, played by Vicky Krieps, she also gets hearing impairness. The crazy unlikable guy begins to become insane, tries to kill everyone, but then the Vicky Krieps character, she grabs one of the chestnut guns, which it is revealed in the movie that the children find these rusted knives from the resort. She picks one, slashes the guy, and because it's a tetanus cut, he gets infected and his body technically begins to rust. It's kind of like the most extreme case of tetanus you could ever see. And while that is happening, the children also hide from the woman who has kind of like this calcium problem that she begins to. That while she's getting older, she begins to have a hump. She begins to kind of like again, like I told you before, she began to die of bonitis, and it's a terrifying way to die, and probably one of the better effects. And then of course we got the touching moment that I was talking about, in which the children tuck their parents, who are now getting old. They begin to express their feelings, kind of regretting their kind of like the mistakes that they were about to do and everything, and then both of them die of natural causes. And now we only got the two brothers, the age 45 and 50, from what I can tell. And then somehow they got this another chestnut gun that I don't know. The movie kind of forgot to film kind of like a moment in that, because before they go to the beach, the little kid befriended the manager's nephew, and they were kind of like, "You're my best friend" or something like that. And they were also between them they were playing this code. Kind of like this coding game in which they have to reveal a hidden message. They find kind of like the hidden message from the kid, and the message says that his uncle doesn't like that people go to the corals. So they begin to suspect that there might be an exit by the corals, so they swim there, and apparently they get drowned. And then something funny came to my head, and this is the Shyamalan twist that happens. We see that all the events has been watched by none other than M. Night Shyamalan himself, which is really funny because when he drops them by the beach, I was thinking that Shyamalan was thinking in his head, "Bye, I'm gonna film your demise," and that's what technically happened. But that's not the whole Shyamalan twist. No. The real Shyamalan twist is is that the whole thing was a drug test. Because when everyone gets invited, everyone are chosen by these people. When they reach the resort, they are given spiked drinks in which they are laced with medicinal drugs. So when these people take it with their since they all have kind of like their respective illnesses or something like that, instead of waiting kind of like years for the results, they send it to this beach. And since they see how the effects works in the span of one day, so they're gonna get immediate results. I couldn't hear if the medicine is the cause of the people getting older. But, or maybe I missed that this was a cursed beach. It doesn't explain too much because apparently they begin to say that people get blackouts out of, because they have these nerve gas by the rocks. I don't know if I hear them right or something like that, but that still doesn't explain why every time they enter the cavern, and then they wake up. They wake up by the entrance, almost like they lost a video game life, and they have to start from the beginning. Someone grabbed them and pushed them back in without any other realizing what happened. That part isn't explained. So this is one of the parts that it was botched. But yeah, this whole thing I was like every other Shyamalan twist. So what happens is that it is revealed that that our protagonist actually survived the coral scuba diving. They pick up some evidence over there that I didn't mention because I didn't want it to spoil. They give it to a cop that the boy met the day prior. And he shows them the evidence, and he finds out that there were other missing people involved into it, and then the hotel staff will get arrested alongside the medical facility, which is so cheesy and so it's a little bit, let's say that it comes a little bit on par with the twist from The Village. And then with that said, that is my review of M. Night Shyamalan's Old. I actually like it. It has its flaws, big flaws, but I'm not gonna lie that I did enjoy it, and it had the goal that the people that if you get invested by it, you're gonna get thrilled. But mostly out of a certain personal experience with situation like that. Well, situation about me thinking about getting old or something like that. And it's not like I went to a beach that makes me old every second. So, do I recommend this movie? Let's say that if you're an M. Night Shyamalan admirer or enthusiast or just kind of like a curious moviegoer like me, you're gonna find something about this movie. Whether you like it or not like it, it's guaranteed that you're gonna talk about it. So basically, yeah. That's all I have to say about my review of M. Night Shyamalan's Old. And if you think that I'm gonna end this movie of me getting old like Fellas did in his review of Turistas, well, I have news for you. This is not gonna...